everybody, Mike Pfeiffer with Pfeiffer Hobby Supply. It seems like lately I've gotten a rash of people calling me and asking me about how to feed Kato Track. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to go into different methods of feeding Kato Track. Most people, when they start looking at track, they only see these guys. These guys. The 041s. It's a track section with a feeder underneath, and I'll get into that in a minute, but we have an alternative choice here. We have these guys, which are feeder joiners, which many of you know about, but apparently a lot of people don't know about. So we're going to get into the different types of joiners. Stick with me. Here we go. Okay, guys, here we go. This is the most common one that guys see. It's the 20041. Let me see if I can get it up here without knocking the camera over. It is a 2 7/16 track piece with a feeder that attaches to the bottom of it and then goes down with a plug attached to it that would attach to your 843, which would go to your power pack, or you can cut the plug off and go to your bus line. Okay? If you add a section of that track to one side of the layout, you're going to have to add one of these, an 040, to the other side, which is a standard 2 7/16 inch piece of track to offset the length of the piece of feeder track. Now, most of the times that doesn't create any kind of problem, but if you don't have that kind of space, or you can't add that piece of track, or you don't want to add that piece of track, then the alternative is to use the 818 feeder joiner. Okay? And to use the feeder joiner, all you do is take an existing piece of track, be it this or any piece of track, pop off the existing joiners, and pop on the joiners that are in the package. Okay? That supplies power through the rail joiner to the piece of track that you're actually attaching this to. Okay? The only thing you have to be careful of on a layout, whether it's DC or DCC, is that you get the polarity correct, the blue and the white on the inside or the outside rail of the entire layout around the layout. And I'm just going to assume that most of you know how to accomplish that. Whether you have to run your finger around on the rail to the next joiner to make sure you get it on the right one, but I can tell you it's disastrous if you turn one around because it shorts out the entire layout, whether you're doing DC or DCC. But this 818, by most guys, seem to like the best. I have a video on making your own feeders. You can do that as well, or you can solder directly to the rail as in conventional flex track. That's a possibility too. Drill down through the track and put a feeder right to the track. Okay, now for demonstration purposes, this is a piece of double track. Okay, and this is our 20043. It's the same thing as the 20041, except this is double track, and of course has two feeders, one for each track. It would be offset by the 2 7/16 double track, which is an 042. So if you were to insert this piece, you would have to insert one of these on the opposite side to make up for that lengthening of the track. Or you would have to use two sets of these on your existing track. I hope that makes sense. Now we're just going to kind of get into a couple of accessory things here. Okay, and sticking with the theme of joiners, and there again we've already talked about the 818 feeder joiner to use in place of changing out a piece of track and having to add track to your layout. We have the standard joiner, the 815. Now, in this bag, and I'm going to hold it up here, you can see that those joiners are some kind of, I would assume, nickel, silver, or stainless steel product. If you happen to buy any of the old Kato K-Track, which is a lighter gray color than the new darker gray track, then I would recommend, and they have a joiner that's very similar to this, if not identical, except the little metal part looks copper colored. If you buy any of that track, it's compatible with the existing track. However, I would recommend changing all of the copper colored joiners to the new joiners. In fact, I recommend putting new joiners on any kind of track placement that you do if the track has been used before. But anyway, keep in mind, if you've got the copper colored joiner, then you want to change it out to the new joiners, the 815s, okay? We have insulated joiners for insulating your rail sections that you don't want to power. And it's very simple. They don't have any metal at all inside of them. The 816, okay, for insulating purposes. And I'll get into something using those in just a minute that I always preach. Here we go back to our 843. If you don't want to cut the plug off of the feeder track that you've put in, you can plug one of these in and cut the end off of this, or you can take it directly to a power pack, as you can see. And that's an 843. And for the elevated track, you have the 824, 828. It plugs onto the bottom of the elevated track and powers your elevated track. I haven't got any experience with elevated track because I don't use any. But let's get into my uses for and my recommendations for using the insulated joiners. Okay, I preach this all the time, and I don't know, a lot of guys can't seem to understand. But to avoid any kind of electrical issues or backfeeding into any power routed turnout, I don't care what kind of track it is, but we're dealing with Kato today, Kato. This is a used number 6, but I'm just showing you. We have a feeder joiner down here at the bottom, and you always want power coming in from this end of the turnout, going into the turnout, and whichever way the turnout is thrown is the way the power is thrown. However, to avoid any electrical issues down the road, to make troubleshooting easier and to make it easier for me to explain to customers why they may have a short, if you had a turnout facing the opposite way and it was thrown the wrong way and this one was thrown the other way, whether it be a number 4 or number 6, you could have a short, okay? So to avoid any of that, what I always recommend, and I say this with every brand of track, like I said, put insulating joiners on all 4 of these rails, and that's how this one is set up. Then simply, the next joint down, refeed that section of track and refeed that section of track. Since we're talking about feeder joiners, this would come in handy as far as feeding the tracks beyond the turnout. But when you get into wiring of the layout, you're going to want to make sure that all 4 rails are insulated and refeed beyond there. It just makes life simpler. While it may not be necessary, and I know there's ways to get around it and all that, but trying to explain that to people is just too much trouble when you can just remember this one simple recommendation here. And actually, guys, that really wraps it up, I guess, pretty much for all the different types of joiners. I hope this is helpful to the guys who are trying to figure out how to feed Kato Unitrack. And that's it for today. Okay, guys, short video. Hope you guys enjoyed the information. I'm going to add it to my how-to stuff on the website. At least I hope it explains how to accomplish feeding your Kato Unitrack. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. And as usual, guys, we'll see you the next time.